Colin, I want to pick up on your views as a department chair. I was getting that as a lead-in to this, and cumulative career in academe. And I want to go through some general observations. And first up, I'm not looking for us to blow a horn. How good a department are we?
I'd say we're probably in the top of the second rank. And I don't see how you can. I think it's wonderful to be there, and I see no hope of getting any better, quite frankly.
It's pretty tough to jump above there.
First of all, the people making the judgments are not going to are making a Bayesian change. So they've got the prior; it's what exists, and
right.
Unless there's a large influx of resources. And I think probably the maintenance of a substantial number of faculty positions are probably more than you've got now.
Right.
I would say up to 10 more. I don't see much chance of shifting up. But that's remarkable to be there. I would say it's, I don't know what it is, in the top dozen or something in the country.
The last ratings, US News, they had us 13 as a civil department, and as an environmental part they had 11, but roughly the top of the second tier. Yeah. And one of the things that you tried very hard as a department chair, there were 36 faculty members, I think, when you started.
Yes.
And
there were 36 when I finished, let me tell you.
You interacted extensively with Ray Bowen, our dean, to try and maintain that at a time where he had to allocate resources elsewhere. And one of the roles that you have as a chair, you had to represent us to the college and the university, but the other part there is interact extensively with the dean. And Ray at the time, he was in for quite a while, and he looked at electrical engineering, which he had to improve and nurture. He was growing bioengineering, which is an enormously important group, and he also had to grow with arts and sciences, computer science and engineering.
Yes.
So in doing that in restricted budgets, maintaining department strength of an excellent department is very hard to do. So what kind of arguments would you give to Ray when he says, well, I need to grab something here? Or how did you make sure that you could argue and sort of say, hey, we need something and so and so?
Well, I expect it depended on the day of the week what the argument was, but essentially it was complete support for him in trying to take the College of Engineering into a different league.
Right.
There's no point in squabbling on that one.
Right.
It was to my advantage, to your advantage, to all our colleagues' advantage, if electrical engineering became good.
No question.
No question. So there's no point in conducting a discussion at their expense. He made up his mind he was going to try to move the college. He'd got at the time 2 highly rated departments in chemical and civil.
Right.
So the real argument was you mustn't lose what you've got.
We have to maintain that.
Yes.
Some people would suggest that Ray maybe had treated us with benign neglect. And that may not be a bad commentary, but frankly, I think he was well aware of what we were doing.
Well, there's no maliciousness in it, I can tell you, none whatsoever. Right. There's also a great difficulty in having a dean who's not a civil engineering. There's great advantages not having a civil engineering dean, because I suspect there'd be a temptation to also be chair at the same time. But civil engineering has such a public interest content which is separated from the other forms of engineering. They're largely very much associated with the private sector, with making money, and
right.
On the whole, you lose money on every civil engineering project, unless you put in, of course, all the societal gains and things like that. But if you put, they're very, and it's so to get people to plead your case from outside, it's not like getting someone from Intel or someone to say this is important for this for the economy of the state from here. You have to get other people who can do it from a broader point of view.
I'm with you.
And of course, Bowen was a to my mind, is a very open-minded man. He was not intolerant of other viewpoints.
You and I share the view that we think the college is much improved under
he improved the college
his leadership.
enormously. I mean, he brought computer science into the college was done, I thought, very well indeed. I mean, it could have been brought in as a £300 threat. It wasn't. It was brought in a collegial manner, I think, and people are very comfortable in that respect.
I think this university's been very fortunate having, as chair of computer science in the last 7 or so years, is a remarkable chair in Ed Lazowska. He can irritate some people, but man, we're better for him having been there.
You know, I'm not clear what you are if you don't irritate people at times.
I go on record. I think he's been an extraordinary member of the community. Under Ray's leadership, I think anybody who looked at it at the college critically would say it certainly improved.
Oh, no doubt about it.
And
I have no idea of the ratings, but I'm sure.
I'm not worried about the ratings.
I'm talking about it's a better college.
The materials in there.
Yeah.
But Ray was perhaps far better known outside the university than within the university because of all the things he did at low profile and so on. And when you and I were chatting, preparing for our interview, we both picked up on the following. Exceptional support for women and minorities. Huge efforts for which he just stood quietly in the background. Outreach to high schools to provide opportunity.
Yes.
He improved the approaches to classroom education. He really made an effort in there and made it possible. We have major research thrust here into how we go about being better educators in the formal setting. And it was clear at the dean's dinner where he and Priscilla were retiring from the deanship, he enjoyed enormous outside reputation.
He does. I mean, not just through the American Society of Engineering Education, but in the NSF, it's
in the American Association for Advancement of Science, for which he's a fellow.
I mean, his work is understood, and it's had an effect considerably outside this campus.
One of the reasons that I thought it important that we should discuss Ray is that he was at a very important part of what he was doing while you were chairing the department and things were going forward there. And one thing I'm personally pleased about, and I think we were both involved in this, the private fundraising to establish the J. Ray Bowen chair to honor engineering education, and something you and I are both very pleased about is the first holder is Greg Miller in civil and environmental engineering, who's an extraordinary educator.
Yeah.
So that's the case there.
There's another thing about Bowen, and that really the bringing in of endowed chairs really started in his tenure. The Bowen effort. I mean, that was pretty quick that he got that.
The Fluke chair came.
Chair, yes, and these are so important.
At the margin, they make a huge difference.
In acknowledging distinguished colleagues.
Right.
That's so important, yes.
I look at the resources for a department such as ours. Well, I'm there now, and you still care deeply about it. First of all, we have faculty-generated competitive outside research funding, and we know all about that.
Sure.
That's something that we're clear in our mind that the faculty generate the support for graduate studies. Under the state support, it pays salaries for 9 months of the year. If you had to sum up what you achieved within those constraints, what might you think about there and the space we had and things of that ilk?
Well, we weren't going to get a new building, so we better make the one we got as efficient as possible. I think we did. I certainly didn't leave it prettily adorned, but I think it's as efficient as you can make those buildings. The one down on the waterfront, the one you have your office in, the main one, Law Hall. There's the real trouble is that if you're going to run laboratory research and even laboratory instruction, you've got to be changing things continually.
Right.
And this, it's ill-suited. All our buildings are ill-suited for that type of thing.
I think a huge accomplishment you made with our colleagues in the environmental component, the lab component.
I believe it helped them enormously.
Was the complete renovation of the labs. They generated
they got
exceptional money from outside.
They did an incredible job, yes.
But you knew which door to pound on in the university to get
Right.
some help,
Yes.
and that made a big difference.
Right.
That's a distinguished group we have.
Right. Yes, I mean, it's not just they've told me so, other people outside have told me so as well.
Any independent observer can pick up
I
on
think
that.
they'll probably help the structures people as well in similar matching money.
In helping get established.
Yeah.
I was looking with John Stanton fairly recently at what it would do to take and modify and do things, and we need to make major change to more whole labs. We need to spend at least $20 million in there to do it right. And it's time we just have to go out and find serious donors to make it happen. We need that kind of new money to get ready for being leaders in research in the field.
Yes, otherwise there's a temptation not to do laboratory work.
Yeah, do what you can rather than what you really should be doing.
Well, what I used to find was that most of my thinking and effort was not on the problem I was attacking, but how to do the darn experiments with what we've got,
right.
And or the little bit of extra money I could put together. I found it very difficult, and I think they're better now. They've got these strong walls. They can go in and they can push against things, and they don't have to think too much.
We have ways to go beyond
right.
that.
And they have chosen that experimental route.
And as a major thrust for our structural...
Yes, quite, and that's fine. In that case, they've got to get first-rate facilities.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a perfectly appropriate route to follow.
I agree.
Yeah, no worries about that.
Colin, and during your tenure, or actually during your time at the university, if we picked up on the major changes and opportunities you've seen within civil engineering, now we first picked up on a different view that Bob Sylvester led in and changed for environmental. But if we look at some of the other things that have influenced pretty heavily, transportation research funding, the Washington State Transportation Center, TRAC, has been a big presence.
Well, the department, as far as I remember, has 3 centres. There's one in urban run water or something. Horner put that together. This is an important centre.
Right.
Focuses things.
The Urban Water Resources
That's
Management
right. Yes.
that Derek Booth runs.
Okay, but I remember I think it was
It was started out with Rich Horner, then Brian Marr, now Derek runs
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
Right.
Then there's the TRAC, as you point out. This association with the state of Washington's Department of Transportation, not highways now, but Department of Transportation. It's been a wonderful resource for the department, but I would also claim it's been a wonderful resource for the state.
Right.
I mean, it's both sides are winners on this stuff.
Oh yes.
I mean, it's not one-sided. It's some of the problems attacked have been extraordinarily difficult, but many of the other ones solutions have been very helpful,
right.
Even though they may not be cutting-edge stuff at the time.
Well,
they've got to be done. They've got to be done well.
Major centre is Trans now that
the one Nancy Nyhan does,
runs.
Yes, and this has a much more national effect, and is not necessarily so technically oriented as TRAC. I mean, it's much more policy and much more towards the, shall we say, the theoretical side of transportation. And as she has attracted graduate students from outside engineering into transportation, which I can only believe is to the enhancement of the profession.
We have a tradition going back long before you and I joined the faculty of branching out to urban planning kinds of issues,
Right, yes.
the wider context of civil engineering. So this is all very positive.
I think it's some sort of surprises. I think when TRAC was established, they didn't have in mind that something like half of their research would be in environmental.
Right. Well, it turns out now for a major highway going through dense urban area, about 50 cents on every dollar is involved with matters environmental.
No, so perhaps it's quite appropriate. Half the research is
this provides an opportunity for people to rethink how they do transportation,
right. Yes.
rather than treat it as a constraint.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I think for both of us, one change we saw when we first joined this department, surveying engineering was a major thrust, photogrammetry, things that go with that,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a case where we see technological change. I was out with a total station not so long ago and hadn't done topo surveying since 1967, and I thought this is not too difficult. But the other thing is the changing of the state licensing law about who can do surveying.
Well, so there's a case
there's a case now where we have just one experience for our undergraduates. Right. So that is a huge change that we've seen.
Yes, and of course they have, I presume, very little operational facility. The undergraduate when
the sort of work you'd be able to go out and do decent work on your own.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.